furthest area away from where the gang's lost riches were hiding, Arthur and Charles come across a campsite covered in human carcasses from various caravans. The men then clear out the cave-dwelling creeps and rescue a girl.
You're safe. It's okay. What's your name, miss? It's okay.
Meredith?
You're gonna be home soon, Meredith.
Arthur will take her to Annesburg, and given that her family has suffered enough, I've chosen for this heroic outlaw to reject yet another reward for saving up the captain.
Oh, that's okay, man. You just keep her warm and keep her safe.
Before leaving, Arthur gets hit with one of the final reminders of why he's caught them, how badly this specific family is currently living, and how far, in general, his life has fallen. That fall is further expressed in the broader gang once Dutch, Micah, and the rest arrive at the recently renovated cave entrance. And I phrased it Dutch, Micah, because that is what the gang has been reduced to.
Micah.
And I need to do some reconnaissance.
Found a girl. Took her home. You and Micah find anything? Maybe. I think maybe. I found our old friend, Mr. Cornwall. Did? Yeah.
So even after Arthur tells him about the girl he rescued, rescue is not on the forefront of Dutch's mind. What is on his mind is getting into deeper trouble, as per Micah's guidance. Okay, fascinating. Not long after, Uncle drags in a drunk Miss O'Shea.
Honey, you suck of shit!
Back
Who are
and
you?
drunk.
She was the only gang member whose whereabouts were unknown in the previous chapter. Scorned and desperate to affect Dutch, she blurts out that she talked to the Pinkertons.
I told them!
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I told them, and I tell them again. Now I've got God's
You
ear.
told who what?
Mr. Middleton and Mr. Ross about the bank
Oh.
robbery, and I wanted them to kill you.
You did what?
But this
Böyle.
stunt results in something Arthur tried to prevent, but could not.
You?
She knew the rules, Arthur. What the hell is wrong with you?
One of the only laws of the outlaw. Spilt beans, spilt guts. This treacherous campsite is introduced
Bu da
with
iyi.
how the gang deals with treachery, setting up the perfect tonal shift for Beaver Hollow.
You're a nasty woman, Miss Crenshaw. A nasty woman. You think I wanted to shoot her? You seem to like it. I saw that beady look in your eye. You're
Morning,
drunk
Arthur.
again, and you're a fucking murderer. She broke the rules. She did no such thing.
Molly's unmarked grave marks the unmanageable mania that grows more and more amongst the members of the gang. Karen and Susan have had tension, mutual disrespect, and vitriol before, but nothing as venomous as this.
She was in love. You sour-faced old crow. Goddamn you, murderer! Murderer!
In prior camps, they still found the time to sing together. In fact, they found many times to do so, but now, nobody's singing with anyone else. Only lone cowboys with their songs. Javier might play a tune like before, and if you manage not to catch it throughout the whole thing, you might find Pearson playing a shanty far more useful and cathartic at this time of the game.
Goodbye, farewell. Goodbye, farewell.
Their voices are their own and on their own, because everyone is alone. It's not just the prospects that are dying. The culture is dying. Pearson's been hitting the old bottle of aged Navy blues,
It's over, Mr. Morgan. It's all over.
and it seems like he only has two moods in Chapter 6, drunk and depressed. And Karen is both at the same time. She's been hitting the drink even harder after Sean's death, sleeping with a bottle in her hand, and waking up still drunk and somehow doing guard duty.
We good.
Unlike Pearson, who's almost on the same level of drunken misery, Karen is likely not going to recover. And as Karen protested, Grimshaw may have been the one to erase comfortable society from the picture, but even she is questioning Dutch's actions.
I still think maybe things will turn out okay. You'll steer Dutch right. I know you will.
I have always been loyal, Dutch. And I shall go on being loyal. What are we doing here? We need to move and keep moving.
Susan is also the one to tell you that someone's broken the box, but more on that later. Tilly and Mary Beth will argue about Molly's death, and it's the first time I've heard Mary Beth insult someone's core like this, and directed at, of all people, one of her closest friends.
Gary, I do believe you got a cold heart.
Now you know that ain't true.
Of course it ain't, but I'm scared.
Javier and Bill will coach you about where your loyalties lie. They'll berate others for not being in line with their loyalties.
Where's your fate?
I got a son, Mr. Escuela. I want him to live.
It's by staying together that we live. Come on!
Like Mary Beth, Uncle and Trelawney don't do much this chapter except eventually evacuate. When Pearson is finally fed up with feeding his feckless feathermuckers, he leaves with Uncle, and Mary Beth follows after. And to say the least, this makes Dutch a bit, miffed.
Pearson left. Told Uncle. The traitors. Both gone. I think Mary Beth left as well. They are goddamn cowards. Arthur, cowards. All the time we spent to run off.
Interesting, as this contradicts with how he was talking not too long ago.
This isn't a prison camp. I am not forcing anybody to stay.
Of course, not all who refuse to stand by Dutch leave. One of them can be kicked out.
There's Strauss.
Credits are reloads!
If you're
Talking to us, something's probably gone wrong.
If you don't go after the final debtors, Herr Strauss will pack up and leave, having given up faith. But this should never happen, as Arthur should be the one to expel the shameful side of the gang and directly see the hurt those debtors have gone through. In short, Strauss is as Sadie describes.
Strauss is a bag of nerves.
More like Herr Stress, am I right, fellas?
I don't know if I like being associated with this.
Either way, Strauss doesn't last long in Beaver Hollow. Additionally, Adler added that,
Well, Swanson's actually gone and cleaned up his act.
and it's a relieving turnaround for the record. He expresses concern for Arthur's well-being, and Arthur notices his.
You seem well, on the other hand.
Yes, son. I've stopped all that silly business. I think I'm okay.
He's objectively in his best mood, and it's because he's given up the morphine and the drinking.
I met a Catholic lady, a nun.
Likely the same Catholic lady that will replace Swanson in the final mission with Captain Monroe. If Arthur had freed the captives, returned the crucifix, and made a contribution for the hungry people of the city, Sister Calderon will be on her way to affirm the continuity of the first game. And in this cutscene, she will do for Arthur what Swanson describes she did for him.
And we prayed and it was lifted. The curse was lifted.
Take a gamble that love exists and do a loving act.
The loving act that Arthur will do is helping the Marsons. Like I mentioned, Dutch is considering a social call with Cornwall before he considers rescuing John. John has been rescued from wolves to a literally warm welcome, but when he's rescued from the law, Dutch responds with contempt as Arthur warned.
What are you doing here?
Good to see you too, partner.
I meant I hadn't sent for you yet.
Abigail's relieved for his return, but is visibly ready to throw hands at her leader for not caring about the talk of hanging her husband.
They was talking.
The only reason Abigail doesn't leave is because she's waiting for the right opportunity to leave together. And as a result, Jack is forced to remain in this place, and for once, he's not happy.
Hi, Jack.
I don't like waking up in this place.
Naturally, he's the only one to notice that Kane is missing.
I'm really Kane! Come on! Kane! Kane!
Another aspect of home gone, and probably put down like Micah. And Micah is, well, Micah.
My daddy said, sympathy is for the weak. Old Dutch has made a fool of himself trying to save you, and that's the truth.
But worse so because with the morale dwindling, the women growing even more uncomfortable, and the family structure breaking down, Micah is going to get exactly the kind of gang that he wants.
We need to be leaner so we can move faster, quieter. I prefer a tight crew. Just 5 or 6 strong gunmen.
And right before the end of this road, Micah just so happened to bump into these 2 men who don't belong and add up to the precise number that he estimated when John and Arthur returned to the Hollow to confront Dutch. Is it even Dutch's gang anymore?
What's wrong, Arthur?
No, boss.
Go drive this over to Bacchus Bridge. Get it hidden near there.
Really does think he's in charge.
Go on. Get them bags packed up quick, Miss Grimshaw. Come on. All of you.
Dutch's tent is fixed at the mouth of the cave, the furthest away from any attack point, with everybody else in front of him. And unlike other camps where Arthur's dwellings were in the same house, right outside beside each other, or just down the hall, the distance from Dutch's tent is now significantly further away from Arthur's caravan. He's closed off from the rest of the camp too, usually having his tent flapped down, uninviting, and playing no records from his phonograph. If he's not giving a speech no one's listening to or conspiring with the little devil on his shoulder, he's not open to input or engagement.
I'm sorry, Arthur. It's private. You know.
Don't mind me.
What happened to you? Arthur, why did you have to go and change on me?
What are you talking about?
I never lied to you. I told you the truth. I gave you all I had. All of you.
He is distant and on the edge of insanity. Yes, the edge, for he has not gone fully insane, as he is not actually in the cave, but is between the walls, above the cavern, adjacent to crazy, is crazy. True, the foreshadowing from Charles and Arthur about Dutch hiding in a cave somewhere is undeniable, but it's not just referring to this cave. It's this one too, in the first Red Dead Redemption, the cave that Dutch runs deeper inside of until he runs out of cave, cutting off the path of his savagery. In Chapter 6, there's still a hint of good in Dutch.
Best thing we can do is let the week go. Move on, get our money, start over.
That ain't happening. Well, something's gotta happen.
It's obviously not enough good, but the nuance of precisely how far Dutch has fallen is important to rightly represent. Let us not exaggerate by saying he's completely off his rocker. He's only mostly off his rocker. There's a big difference between... Never mind. To illustrate exactly how rotten he's gotten, consider where he now hides the treasures they've all collected.
The money? It's hidden in the caves at Beaver Hollow.
What?
Yeah. So much for never hiding it near camp. Dutch was getting even sloppier than we thought.
And he has been sloppy. The moral standards that Dutch used to uphold have slowly been sacrificed on the altar of maybe there's money. So to have the ill-gotten gains in the most obvious place for the enemy to find it is beyond indicative of Dutch's fall from the ideals he pretended to uphold. Keep your money close and your enemies closer.
Well, look who it is.
And that's everyone except... Oh. Charles will leave after the hollow is hollowed out and will return
Supplies
to
are
camp with
starting to run
eagle
low,
flies from the
just so
Wakifi
you know.
tribe. He's been helping them in any way he can.
Beautiful.
As a result of his minor
Excellent.
absence,
Thank
instead of
you.
affecting the gang
This
on
is
a
good
meaningful
quality.
level, Charles' great effect is on Arthur, asking him to also help the tribe, which is the same optional chain of missions which lead us to this life-changing conversation with the sister. Charles is mainly there to break eagle flies from the fort and to lead the gang to help the tribe move to Canada after the assault on the oil refinery. He's kind of detached, but more on him distant nature. Finally, there's Sadie. Sadie's doing fine.
Ah, Sadie.
Hey, Arthur.
You doing okay in all this?
You don't have to worry about me.
But easy for her to say, the only thing she worries about is pouring out perpetual vengeance on the O'Driscolls. And she got what she wanted. Now, to be fair, she does demonstrate her care for the Marstons, as she is snappy about swinging John, and there's no hesitation when she rides with Arthur to rescue Abigail. But for most of the time at camp, she's hardly affected by the bad things happening to the gang. Aside from Kieran, she has spent the least amount of time with them, and therefore has the least amount of ties. If it seems like I'm holding back from drawing out more connections and conclusions about these characters, I am, as I am saving the content for other segments down the line. Later in the series, I shall cover each individual gang member's contribution and thematic purpose for the gang throughout the story. So good news, there's more to come from this mega-analysis. But we're not done with Beaver Hollow. I haven't even started with Beaver Hollow, the campsite itself. It's a miserable plateau within the hilly forests of Roanoke Ridge. Before, the site was inhabited by a large and dysfunctional inbred family of killers, and now the site is unhappy home to a small and even more dysfunctional
Gonna be out of
formal
supplies before
family
too
of
long.
killers.
Turned into a bunch of killers, I mean it. We ain't even got the delusion of being anything but a bunch of killers.
Still, the gang is far from god-awful, as are the Murphy Brood, the original occupants of the Hollow. The Vanderlyn gang typically targeted the big stores, the trains and the banks as their primary source of funding. They were never so desperate that they needed to resort to robbing anyone and everyone that imposed on their territory. But I think the Hollow being home to the Murphys is less about being the gang's perfect parallel and more about being the trajectory of the kind of killers they'd become if their current tendencies continued and remained unpunished. It's a harrowing place for Hollow people. Those that have given up on being charitable.
Someone smashed the box.
What box?
The money box. We'd had that for so many years.
Why did they smash?
I don't know.
I like the detail that the donation box was smashed by an unknown party. Normally, we'd love to pin the blame on a particular piece of shit, but this time there's no clear implication of who had done it. Who destroyed the practice of almsgiving within the family? The family did. It could have been anyone. Nobody wants to contribute to this anymore. No one is good enough to give of themselves to the game, and those who are good enough as people should do the only thing good people can do in these circumstances. Get out of it.
Yeah, get out of it.
Those that remain are either fools or fiends. The kind of creatures that have given up keeping up internal appearances. Did you notice that you can't do any chores in Chapter 6 either? Chapter 4 was the last time the player could do that. Immersively boring activities, which I love, by the way, that increase honor and Deadeye experience, indicating chores are good for your soul, and they keep you sharp. Splitting wood, dropping off corn sacks, and topping off water. Around Shady Belle, the water then may have been swampy, but at least it was something. But now, don't be silly. No one is willing to hoof it down the hill to gather water, which I might add is not for drinking. The gang has buckets of drinking water in several spots around camp. The other bucket of water was mainly for washing, whether it was Arthur's muddy face, Swanson's drunk face, or the dishes. No one is clean in Beaver Hollow. No one's carrying their weight around because the weight of their predicament is far too heavy for all of them to carry, so they carry on, doing only the bare minimum, not taking the time to play cards or dominoes. And on top of that, the horses suffer from overcrowding and constant fear. The ground is rock, but instead of describing a firm foundation, this stony plateau provides far less in the way of food for the horses to eat.
So it goes. They are goddamn cowards.
One thing I was still trying to piece together is why it's called Beaver Hollow, as if beavers could carve out rock caves with their teeth. Beavers are native to the area, and many of them, including the legendary beaver, are just south of Butcher Creek, having built their dam. The name could simply be related to the region, but it almost seems like Butcher's Hollow would have been the perfect way to Wamano's name, but was already half taken by the aforementioned village, where its name there refers to the actual trade of chopping meat for folk to eat. I thought maybe the name reflects how the beaver makes its home by disrupting the flow of nature, but then again, they're also a part of nature. So I was ready to conclude that Beaver Hollow is just a name. Same with Murphy. Like, I didn't find anything special about the name Murphy. I thought maybe it's the same situation with Beaver Hollow. But the more I thought about it, I realized beavers are a hard-working species. They knock down trees for the branches and build themselves protection from predators in the form of ponds spawned by their dams. They work to secure their future. A beaver, then, is a creature of promise. The promise that they will do what they can to secure their promised land of safety. Dutch is also a maker of such a promise.
Supplies are running down fast.
Because things are gonna get tough, but we are gonna get where we want to go.
Whenever I got you two by my side, things are gonna be just fine. We will disappear, be reborn.
Then we meet up, we gather the family, we get some money, and get the hell out of there. That's the plan.
I ain't got a final plan yet. Arthur, I ain't got it.
Dutch doesn't have a plan, he only has a promise. One that he breaks over and over again, until there's no one left to make promises to. His words are strong, but empty, just as they had been from the beginning. Remember how we almost believed him back then?
We lost some folks. Now, if I could throw myself in the ground in their stead, I'd do it. Gladly. And I would throw myself in the ground in their place 100 times over if I could. I miss every man and every woman
If promises were crackers, my Arthur would be fat.
Think on that, boy.
With that covered, let's move on to the map, as the physical location of the campsite means more than being in the furthest opposite corner from Blackwater. Unlike West Elizabeth, northeastern New Hanover has what the kids call slim pickings. Blackwater was an up-and-coming town with enough corruption to guarantee a decent score. That's simply not the same story with Beaver Hollow's surrounding communities. Butcher's Creek is right down the road, but it's definitely not the kind of place you'd call an opportunity. It's nothing but poor, poison people who live by their superstitions under the leadership of a charlatan shaman, almost exactly like her gang. One day, Van Horn is not exactly better. Southeast from Butcher's Creek, the town has at least a few businesses, that's something, but it's mainly a spitty saloon, a half-star hotel, and a fence. Something useful to the outlaw beyond being robbable. There's no law in Van Horn, so everyone in town is strapped. Even if there was something here worth risking life and limb for, the people have their pieces too, and will not make their peace with you. And lastly, to the north from here is Annesburg, a company mining town with neither a saloon nor general store in operation. The one store that they have running is a gun store, and it's run by the nicest shop owner in the game. Even if you were insistent on robbing from the guy who has all the guns, why would you want to?
You have kept that perfectly maintained. I love to see that.
The only money worth taking coming through Annesburg was Leviticus Cornwall, and that did not go anywhere, so Micah had to swipe some documents that gave them an idea of where the capital might come from.
Looks like Mr. Cornwall's company signed a railroad contract with the Army. And they're also moving dynamite down from, well, the Annesburg mines to San Denis to resell. Bonds at his oil factory. Maybe there's a way to get them off our back and get the money that we need.
And that is the bright idea. See, there is no money in this region. Their plan is to force the money to come to them. Why not just move somewhere with better opportunities? Well, they physically can't.
What are we doing here? We need to move and keep moving.
We need money! You dumb fool! Money! Or we are dead!
They can't go west or south because the law had already followed them there. They can't go east because
This will be in the ocean, so we're gonna have to go north.
they also can't go further north because the caravan can't climb waterfalls. That's why they really do need a boat.
New York. We are gonna go to New York. Now they have been chasing us
Getting a little low
south
on
and
supplies
east and
here.
west. We're gonna get a boat. We're
I
gonna get
suppose
on a
this'll
river,
do.
and we're gonna go north, New York.
And it's why they need the money there. But how do they get the money there? And who has the money? Or rather, who has the kind of money they could bring with them in response to gang activity? The government. The same entity currently actively seeking their destruction. In practice, the Vanderlyn Bell plan involves pissing off the feds so much that it compels the army to bring all the cash wages necessary to quickly repair a major railway bridge. Of course, guaranteeing the amount of money needed to repair that bridge would also guarantee the army bringing the army, trained, hardened combatants with bullets of their own. That's the theory. It sounds stupid. In concept, however, this may in fact be the most ingenious plan they can muster in this general Custerfest. That's how lost they are at this time. The stupidest, most counterintuitive concept ever is currently the best idea. Go to the government. Anger the army. They'll bring the bank. Dutch is so focused on the nebulous promise of paradise that he's willing to bait the biggest predator of his own kind just to steal from their stashes. But maybe you've been thinking for the last 7 years, why the hypocrisy?
They was talking of hanging me, Dutch.
They was talking. They was talking. And now they may come and hang us all.
Why is Dutch completely on board with boarding a train that comes with the wrath of the law, but beforehand angry at Arthur for sparking the same wrath over freeing John? Well, you see, it's not hypocrisy. That would mean
Stocks
Dutch
are
is
looking
being
good.
inconsistent. He is not. For unlike pieces of paper with U.S. presidents on them, John Marston is not money. Dutch behaves as if the prison break was not worth it because the only thing of worth to him now is money.
Supplies are looking
Family and
healthy
helping
right
the poor
now.
becomes less important to Dutch, to the point of its value disappearing entirely.
I guess I'm more interested in saving lives than winning a chess.
And maybe life ain't such a thing to cling on to so tightly.
No doubt. But what about the women?
You sound like Hosea.